Aloha friends and welcome back. Today we decided to sit down together and do a little update for you because we haven't made a video in quite a while and a lot of you have been writing either an email or commenting and wondering where we are, how we're doing, and praying for us, which we really appreciate. So today we'll tell you a little bit of what we've been up to in these last few months.
Yeah, so this is sort of an impromptu sit down. We actually, the reason we haven't been making any videos is because we just don't have time. We don't have time to organize ourselves to do much of anything. We're on a very fast moving treadmill. And so in a similar fashion, we haven't had time today to really discuss anything that we would share with you, but this is the best that we can do. It's a Sabbath afternoon. We rest on Sabbath. And because God asks us to, and so we're going to take this opportunity that we have here on the property where we've just had a little nature walk and enjoyed seeing some of the progress with the fruits and enjoying the sunshine here in mid-March. And so we thought we would just
Come and say hi.
Come and say hello.
Yes.
But we have been experiencing quite a number of things over the last few months. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges, trials, and also a number of significant blessings.
Yes. So let's see, what has changed since our last video? Or
Yeah,
what have we
probably
done?
some of the stuff we'll share will likely be out of order because it'll just kind of come to mind as we go through some things. But really, in the last few months, one of the big things is we've shifted our focus to trying to get this place livable so that we could live on the land. Now, the first thing before we got to that, we were at the end of the year, and in order to get our property taxes to where this project would be sustainable long term, we needed to accomplish a number of agricultural milestones to qualify for the county ag designation. And so we worked really hard toward the end of the year in getting a bunch of things planted, and we also started up beekeeping. And so we've got 4 beehives now, and that was part of the agricultural program that we were involved with.
Yeah.
And got all our papers filed, and just as the new year was coming in. And fortunately, we were approved, and so that has made a significant difference as far as our property taxes, and so we're grateful for that.
Yes, and really last year our 2 big goals, on this property were to get to the point to grow a lot of food for sustaining our family, right? And then in that also to be able to get this exemption, this agricultural exemption. And so we worked very hard the whole entire year, and especially at the very end of the year, be planting, and as Ryan said, got some bees. We've never had experience with bees. This is our first time, so we're learning. So we have met our goal, which is it's a big blessing, and we're really thankful for it. And coming into the new year now, in 2022, our big goal is to get on the property, basically build a home and move in and live here.
Now, backing up to what you were saying about the goals from last year about the food,
Yes.
We really have made some really good progress in that regard. Of course, a lot of our trees and things that we've planted are going to need, another 2-3 years to really come into maturity. But we've also planted a number of things that would, be able to produce for us in, let's say, 12 to 18 month time period. And so you can see we're sitting in one of our many patches of bananas and papayas.
Yeah.
And so today we took a quick look around and we saw that we had at least 10 rack of bananas that we found. In our last video, you saw the first flower.
Yes.
And so now we've got 10 racks of bananas on the property.
That's really exciting.
And we've got lots of papaya trees that are producing. And so that's kind of some of our short range production, along with all the greens and the taro and the...
Yeah, we have passion fruit and pigeon peas and few pineapples even.
Yeah.
Taro, yeah.
So that's exciting to see, and
Yeah.
it's nice to see things getting bigger and flowering. And
Yes, and it definitely feels good to have some edible things now that, the state of the world is kind of keep falling apart. It's nice to at least know that we have something.
yes.
So, what else have we been up to?
Well, you mentioned about at the turn into the new year, we really started focusing on let's get building.
Yes, the house.
And oh boy, that's it sounds
Simple?
simple, but it's not simple.
Yeah, a lot
It's
of
not
our
simple.
time was eaten up by basically working a lot on finishing up, finalizing our floor plan for the house, and it's a simple house, just 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. But you'd be surprised the details you have to figure out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we hired somebody who we had the reputation of being the best on the island, and we expected somebody to sort of hold our hand and say, hey, look, here's your choices. Oh, I would do it this way, not that way. Here's the advantage of doing this. And the reality is we didn't really get that experience, and drawn out over, I don't know, 9 months or basically we had to design every element of the house ourselves, and we had to research every element of the house ourselves, and we had to draw things and then have them redrawn. And it was not a pleasant experience, but we endured and we did the research, and now we have a really nice house design.
Yeah, and it's all done, and it's going to go to permitting process next week, hopefully.
Yeah, within the next week. And then finally, once we have that finished plans, we can begin to buy more of the materials. We have been aggressively working on buying materials since, I don't know, the last 6 months or so, because we've foreseen trouble, and we've foreseen, these supply chain issues, and we've foreseen inflation. And so we've been doing our very best with the limited resources that we have month by month, because as many of you, who've been following us know, we are doing our very best to do everything, basically stay out of debt.
Debt-free.
Be debt-free. So
what have we gotten so far for the house?
Oh boy.
The 2 main things.
Well, we got an entire and complete solar system.
Yes.
Every bolt and nut and screw and bar and metal and
everything.
everything. We got everything, which is amazing, and we're thankful. And that took, of course, a lot of research to figure out what it was we needed and wanted. And so we got that, and that's going to be more than adequate. It's going to be able to comfortably power our house and have more energy to spare. And so that's a blessing and a relief. In addition, we...
water catchment?
Yeah, we bought our rainwater harvesting, all the gear associated with that, pumps, pressure tanks, filters,
pipes.
15,000 gallon tank, pipes, etc. Then what else did we buy? We've been buying
our water heater.
We bought
tankless
our Rinnai tankless water heater, so that's like on demand.
We got a couple of appliances so far and a couple of toilets.
We're buying more appliances this week.
If we knew what kind of lumber we need right now, we would buy lumber right now, but hopefully soon we'll get there. Thankfully, God has been providing, so yeah.
We've been buying a lot of things. And
oh, yeah, I remembered now. Something else that we have not done yet, but we have organized for, and that is something that has to go before you start building, is septic tank. Septic tank.
So we did the septic design. We got that all permitted.
Yeah.
We did...
so they're going to do it in a few weeks, I think.
Yeah. So we got some estimates, and they're kind of all over the place. The prices are pretty high, higher than they should be. But we ended up settling on somebody, and they had to special order the tank, which would take about a month, the septic tank. And we're oversizing our system because we intend on expansion at some point, God willing. This house will be adequate for our primary needs, but we've oversized it so that we can do some additional building at some point in the future and accommodate that with the existing septic. So that's going to be good. Yeah. Let's see, what else did we do? Hawaii has certain permitting things related to water heating, and so we were able
Oh, yeah.
to get some exemptions.
Yeah, so
And
instead of having a solar water heater, right, which we feel like it's inferior, we got a tankless water heater that will be powered by propane.
yeah,
We've had it before in our previous home and we loved it. It was really reliable and good.
and currently we do have at the present time this solar
Yeah.
hot water heater, and we're not fans.
No.
We're not fans of that, but
Yeah, but it works.
the
for now.
the state of Hawaii requires that for all new construction. However, you can apply for and get exemptions under certain circumstances. So
Yeah, and then another big thing, we finally decided to put up a real professional fence on our property.
that's right. I
'Cause
forgot
we-
about that.
Yeah, because we had just a stretched out fence that we did ourselves, just so we can start planting a year ago, if you remember. And now we are going to take that down as soon as we will put the new fence in. All of our posts are in, and this coming week, they're going to come and stretch the fence fabric and put all the gates up, and finally we can keep the pigs out of our yard.
Yeah. So you may remember a couple videos back, we talked about how we were going to be doing this. We planned to do it ourselves. However, we have found that life can get pretty busy, and fencing takes a lot of time, especially if it's just us without too much experience. And we started the project, but then we realized, you know what, our time would be better spent elsewhere. And so we have invested in some professional fencers, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah. So those are exciting things. Those are all the blessings. As far as challenges, we have had some sickness in the family, and just overall, because everything takes such a long time, I guess, we would have times of discouragement. But, we can't afford to stay discouraged too long. We have to get up and keep going. So,
Yeah, it's true. These are challenging times.
not to mention the elephant in the room is a war in Ukraine, and many of you might not know, but I am originally from Ukraine, and I have all of my family currently live in Ukraine. So it has been very stressful couple of weeks for us. Thankfully, all of our family is safe as of right now. Most of them still are in Ukraine, but we're praying
Yeah.
for their safety, and we invite you to pray for Ukraine in general, for this conflict, and for our family.
Yeah, it's what she said is sort of an understating what's going on over there with our family. And by God's grace, they have been safe to this point, and we pray that they will remain so. But they are in an active war zone.
Yeah, it's
And,
dangerous times for sure.
It's not something that's just affecting a minority of areas. I mean, at least their area is kind of a pretty hot zone.
Yeah.
And as it looks,
I mean, for example, my hometown is occupied by Russians right now, and there has been a lot of fight going on, a lot of bombing and shooting artillery, whatever, and people are kind of afraid to go out to town. My parents haven't been to town in 2 weeks. We send them money over there, but they can't even go get it. Banks are closed. There have been rumors of people being shot just by walking in town, so it is pretty dangerous. Thankfully, my parents live in the country, in the countryside, about 20 minutes away from town, and thankfully they have food and water and everything they need. So it's very important to be in the country at this time. But
it's also important at this time to have your own sources of food
yes,
and water and heat and
heat.
and so
It's cold there right now.
our parents there, they also have a couple places in town,
Yeah.
but this is no place to be in the city, and so they are so much better off in the country, and we're very thankful that they have that place with their established gardens and
Yes.
and that's kind of going back to what we're all about here, is that tough times are coming. The Bible predicts it. Common sense tells you that what you see going on around us is not going to really end well. There's a lot of trouble coming upon the earth, and it's time for us not to become more and more dependent upon the governments of this world to provide our needs. If you're going to preserve any sense of personal liberty and make your own and be able to make your own decisions without being coerced and forced into some path that the powers that be would take us on, you're going to have to take some things into your own hands and get your family out of the cities.
Yes.
And you may not be living in Ukraine, but I'm telling you, trouble is coming to a city near you very, very soon.
Yes, and I know that when this whole COVID hysteria started, you know, it was kind of like a wake-up call for God's people to get out of the cities. And for those of you who haven't gotten out yet and feel like, well, things are kind of getting back to normal, don't be deceived. Things are only going to get worse. And while things are sort of normal, it's best to get out now while you can.
Personally, I mean, I would say that it's getting tougher and tougher. In my opinion, it's getting very late to get out of the cities.
But it's still possible, though.
It's still possible by God's grace, but what we need is this partnership of human effort with divine help. And we need those two things. We can't really rely upon our own selves. I think we need God's help, and we have His promise, at least those of us who believe and have faith in Him, that He can make a way, and so we certainly believe that.
Yeah.
When we look at the process of, for example, building, developing, it's getting so much more difficult. I mean,
yeah, with all the prices rising,
the prices are incredible.
We honestly don't know how we're going to do it, except for with God's help, you know.
Every week we just say, look, we don't know how we're going to get to the finish line, but we know we'll get there somehow by God's grace. And every week we're going to take the steps that we can take.
It's no time to give up right now. I mean, we have come so far, we can't give up now. So we'll just do what we can, and the rest is, you know, it's in God's hands.
And in that regard, I would just encourage people out there who are thinking, you know, I don't have the resources to do this or to do that. Just remember that God has 1,000 ways to provide for us, of which we know not. And we just need to do the very best we can. That includes working tirelessly. That includes, you know, cut out all the junk that's eating up your time in your life, you know. Work extra shifts if they present themselves to you. Get a second job. Whatever it is, it's going to be hard. To be honest, our quality of life does not resemble anything that we would like it to be. But we're working toward a better future. And to get to that better future at the end of the line for our family, we are enduring a lot of hardship.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you know, part of why a lot of times we would get discouraged, because it's coming on to 4 years. It's going to be in May. It's going to be 4 years since the eruption.
And the loss of our home. And
the loss of our home in August, yeah. And, you know, we're still here. We're still not living on our land. And a lot of times we get discouraged. And not only that, not only it takes time, but we have experienced personally that we have experienced a lot of trials, just trial after trial from this side and from that side, you know, whether it's sickness, whether something's happening to the family, whether it's, you know, his job was at stake, right? And we just, you know, wonder, when is it going to stop? When are we going to get somewhere and, you know, have a life where we can finally be more productive and help others and do all these things? And that's not our plan. It's God's plan, and, you know, we don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of His plan. So we were just reminded today that we have to trust Him, and that in time, once He tests our faith and once it's sufficient for Him, then, you know, maybe we can have a little bit of calm in our life. But
yeah, I would say that something that we've experienced, and perhaps some of you have experienced, is that when the life that we are living currently doesn't match our picture of what our life should be, that causes pain.
Yes.
And that's been our case. Now, on a positive note, when we can see progress toward a goal, and not just some abstract goal, but something that's very deeply meaningful to you. Like, for example, what the hopes and dreams that we have for our own family, of personal liberty, freedom,
Self-sufficiency, yeah.
self-sufficiency,
I mean,
closeness with
every
God.
tree that grows and you see it now, and the property is shaping up to be similar to what we've had in our other country property. It's bringing hope to us, and helps us to keep going.
And so we need, I guess the point is that we need to be able to see progress.
Yes.
And
But anyways, we just wanted to encourage you, because I'm sure a lot of you have experienced the same thing, discouragement, delays. But, we have to develop that faith that will go through the delays and discouragement, right? So we wanted to encourage you that just have your eyes on the prize. You know that what you're doing is right and God's will. So keep going.
yeah, you've got to keep going. You've got to be kind of like, that proverbial pit bull that when it bites down, when it knows what it wants and it bites down, it's not going to give up. And
Yeah.
what an analogy, huh? But that's how I see myself. I've bitten down on my
On his goal.
yeah, and no matter how much you shake that leg, I'm not coming off.
That's right.
And so,
We're in good hands here.
but
Anyways.
yeah,
So we just wanted to come and, share with you what's been happening. I know you've been missing us, and to be honest with you, we don't really see ourselves making regular videos this year, because we know we have been through this once, building our own home, and we know it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of trial, a lot of, difficulties.
prayer.
And so, yeah, time, and we are not going to have time to, make some creative videos and show you things. We will probably sit down and give you some updates like this, but our goal and our desire is that once we live here, once we finally live on our land, in the country, we really hope to put more time into this channel, to encourage more people to do the same and to develop their country properties. So don't give up on us. We're still going to be here, just maybe not as often as we would like to.
So just a couple thoughts on the months to come. Personally, I'm convinced that there's going to be a lot of trouble coming. A lot of it is going to be blamed on this war. I think that we're going to see significant challenges with inflation. The cost of goods and essential services are going to be going up. That's going to put hardship and cause hardship for a lot of people. In addition, you've seen that property prices and home prices have continued to increase, and that of course makes it very difficult to transition to the countryside. It's likely to become a lot harder to get the essential things that you need. If you were in the market for essential things for your country place, like whether that be solar panels or whatever it may be, I would encourage anybody with the funds to do so, to buy what you need yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't wait. If for some reason you've been looking for a country home and you haven't been able to find one just yet, I would encourage you to do whatever it takes to get out of the city. In other words, rent if you need to. You can always rent in the country.
Grow something.
Grow something, learn. Renting can be a very good opportunity to sort of test drive an area.
Definitely.
And see if that's really a good place for you and your family. But whatever you do, personally, if I were in your position, if you were still in the city, I would get out as soon as possible. Another thing I think you can count on for this coming year is it's going to be harder and harder to have sufficient food supplies from traditional sources, grocery stores, etc. Not only are the prices going to go up, but we're going to have scarcity. This Ukraine-Russia crisis is going to, much of it is going to be attributed to that. But we see that even back further, well before any of this started, certain elite voices were beginning to kind of prepare us for what was to come. And I would encourage maybe some of you to look up, Google this article from Time magazine in October. It was dated October 21, 2020. And so that was, what, quite a while ago. That's like 18 months ago?
Yeah.
And that article is called, It's 2023, Here's How We Fixed the Global Economy. And in this article, you find this woman, Mariana Mazzucato, who is directly linked with the World Economic Forum. She's talking through the crisis of COVID and how everything would be resolved in time, and how she says in here that in June of 2022, we would be experiencing a severe food shortage. And in the article, 18 months old, they state that it would be because of drought, right? But anyhow, long story short, it appears that that food shortage is coming, and I would encourage you to be prepared. And so you can do that by, number one, is growing food that you can continue to grow, right? I mean, you grow a banana tree, you grow some sweet potatoes in the ground, and it's something you can continue to plant and harvest and plant and harvest. And but in the meantime, it would be wise to stock up on some essential products,
things that are not perishable,
non-perishable items. And so that's for the short term. But you know, word to the wise, I think it's time to get ready to provide for your own needs.
Yes.
Another thing that's deeply concerning as far as food security and individual freedom is this tendency recently to take a cancel culture like to the next level. And so we've seen in Canada where the government of the nation has actually chosen to basically cancel these truckers, right? And so that means freezing their assets, their bank accounts, their trucks, their businesses, things like that. We see now with the Ukraine-Russia crisis that now the world is canceling Russia in large, a country of like 144 million people.
Yeah, and we by no means stand with Russia, but it sets a precedent.
Yes, and of course we realize that the vast majority of the people within Russia are innocent of anything that is going on elsewhere. And so those people are being penalized where, for example, their Visa cards do not, and their MasterCard and their PayPal does not work. Their YouTube monetization has been turned off. They're being canceled en masse.
Right.
And so my point is that we're moving into a time in this Earth's history where when you cross somebody in power, they'll turn off your bank account. And so we need to, if we care about personal liberty, we need to create lives for ourselves and for our families where we can supply our own needs. And so we would encourage anyone who is working in that direction.
Yeah, and we know from the Bible that it's coming, the no buy, no sell for those who are faithful, God's children who are honoring God's commandments. They're going to be blamed, and they're going to be canceled, and they're not going to be able to buy or sell. They're going to be cut off from society. And, you know, that's why we need to, ahead of time, put ourselves in this position.
If you haven't read Revelation 13 in a while, we'd encourage you to give it a look.
Reread it. Yeah.
Because this is what is coming. And we hope, by God's grace, that there's time for everybody to prepare. But someday that day is coming, and it might be a lot sooner than many of us are prepared for.
Yes. And, you know, like I said, it seems like things are sort of going back to normal, right? Except with COVID, except for the high prices and everything. And it might be like, you know, a little respite we might have. But don't think that this is just for you to relax. This is basically God's last call. If you're not going to wake up now and get out of the city, out of the harm's way, I don't know what else will wake you up.
Anyhow, friends, that may be all that we have to share at this moment, but just a few random thoughts. Thanks for sticking with us along the way.
Yeah, we hope to see you soon.
And we do think of you. We read all the comments. Unfortunately, we haven't been that great at replying to them recently, but we do appreciate you. We're thankful for your comments, and we look forward to talking with you again in the not too distant future.
So God bless you, and aloha.